words, but I flipped around the words and I read it like very poetically, you know, growing up listening to Edgar Allan Poe and all these original poets. Like I did it like a poem. And of course, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, man, the circumstances are crazy, but this feeling, there's something about this feeling, you know. And I knew it was not just a matter of just writing it. I knew it was a matter of performing it. You know, it was something about performing it that was just as exhilarating because I didn't even write that, but it was something about the performance of that. And then when I began to start writing my own, I got the full spectrum from beginning to end. So yeah, poetry is always something that's like, wow, the performance part of it is really big for me because I feel like that's how I started. I didn't start off writing. I started off performing.
That's deep. That's really deep. Amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon, same question.
Sorry, my technology was tripping, but to be specific, the question is, how'd you start writing poetry?
Yes.
So, so I'll tell everybody, because it's the reality. Poetry saved my life. I started writing poetry in second grade. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. I lived in an area called Bartlett. I was the only black kid in my entire area, in my entire school, the only black kid in my neighborhood. And a lot of my experience was dealing with like the trauma of of racism, being isolated, being ostracized. Also, growing up in a household filled with uh, toxic masculinity, abuse, physically, emotionally, pain, like feeling like there was no place safe. Like I battled with depression at a very young age. In middle school, I actually tried to commit suicide twice. I tried in seventh grade, um, and both times were failed attempts. And I was writing at this time. I started like doing um, like theater and stuff. So I started writing these poems, and they were really dark, like super dark poems. And like I would always flip it at the end because I was afraid if somebody ever would see, I'd get in trouble. So I'd write this really dark poem, but then I'd be like, haha, just kidding. Like at the very end of it. I showed a friend one day in my art class, and I told my friend, don't share with anybody, don't tell anybody. Like it's between me and you. They said, of course. Of course, they lied. They told the teacher, and the teacher pulled me outside, and the teacher said, this is kind of concerning. This is a little bit scary, in fact, and we kind of have two options. They said we can either call your mom, your dad, the principal, pull a lot of people into this space, or you can keep writing poetry and you can share with me. So I started writing my poetry and sharing it with my teacher. And that was when I realized that I didn't have to inflict pain on myself. I could tell the story of the pain and let it go.
Thank you so much for trusting us with that story. I know someone out there watching or listening needs to hear all of us and why poetry is important and how poetry saved our life. A lot of us. Katora, same question. Thank you so much, Brandon.
Yes, yes. So I gotta give the flowers to Brandon right now, because at the conference he doesn't know how much he truly blessed me sharing his story, because for so long I kept my story to myself, and I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders as a child, started as a kid. And I think when you go through so much in your life, you don't even know that you are depressed, because you have to keep moving forward. It started with me as a child. Um, both my grandmas on my mom's side, she's still living. She's 85 years old. She's the one who really encouraged me to write. And my grandma Funny, she passed away when I was 9. She seen the gift on me at an early age. But just like Brandon's story, when you have a broken household and you have things going on, and you're the only black kid at all white schools. I was the only black graduate in my high school, in my class. I was one of 3 in my grade school at St. Bede, my parents were separated. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was failing out of St. Bede. They called my mom in and was telling her, you got to get her involved in something because this is becoming, crazy. And my mom was a choir director. So she was in a church, and it was like I had to find an identity crisis from me going to Catholic school and then going to church 3 times a week at Pentecostal. And I felt no way to express myself. So I used that anger and viewed it into basketball. But like most kids that suffer in our community, they think you're not encouraged to write. You're not encouraged to be in class. You're not encouraged to become something more than an athlete, or things that you see, or narratives that you see. And my father wasn't in the household, so I felt my mom had the weight of the world on her shoulders. So I really didn't have any direction. I had to find myself. So I used basketball as that fuel throughout that whole time. And I tore my ACL, tore my meniscus, lost every D1 scholarship that I received. It was over 30. I was depressed. I was hurt. My mom passed away with stage 4 cancer. I, I was at a point of, God, why are you doing this to me? Like, why am I going through all these changes and all these things, and then going to college and going through life by myself, feeling no support from family, just like so many other people that go through life and feel like they have nobody. So when I say poetry found me, I think poetry has always been with me since I was a child, with my mom singing songs, struggling from me through basketball, listening to so many songs that I think that I used to just write and just say so many things that I just kept to myself. Journals, so many different pieces of myself that I felt like I couldn't show because I could perform on the basketball court. I felt like that was my stage. So now poetry is my stage. And I never thought in a million years, if you would have asked me last year, that I would be right here in this moment with all you guys, you amazing creatives, poets, educators, like teachers of life. I never would have thought I would have got to this moment, because society and honestly, where I live, being a dreamer, you keep those things to yourself. It's not encouraged. It's not. So meeting Janae and Andrea and Andre, like, it was, you don't know, you guys were God sent. I wasn't even going to make it to the conference because I lost somebody close to me. What this next piece will be about, but I don't want to go too long. But honestly, poetry found me when I needed poetry the most, and it saved my life. And I thank God for every single one of you guys, because you just don't know how much you are a blessing to me.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Maestro, same question.
So I guess it was an indirect way how I started poetry. When I was a young child, my mom used to make up songs and stuff for us to remember things like mnemonics, to remember scriptures and remember different things about like how to get back to the house from school. And she'd make up these little songs. And I think that idea of songwriting, or just writing in general, was rooted with my mom. In the 7th grade, we had a poetry contest / class assignment. And I remember my mom helping me, but I promise you it was trash. But the following year, my 8th grade year, my best friend at the time, Marshall, had a mom who was going through a lot of things, and he was just on the phone telling me um, all the stuff that they were going through. And I remember writing "An Echo in the Mountain," and that was my very, very first poem. It's in a book. I never actually performed it, but I just remember that being like, I'm proud of this poem. This is a piece that I could say this is a actual poem. But fast forward to college, I used to have what I call my rant book. Like I still wasn't like necessarily a performance poet. I wrote a lot of stuff in books, but I didn't perform. And I started an organization called Sudden Impact Inc. And it was singers, poets, musicians, dancers, and there were two poets that were just phenomenal. One was Gabby Lee, another one was Arana Browning, now Lopez, and I just would watch them and be just so amazed at how they could just take words and command the stage. And I was like, so one day we were in rehearsal for an upcoming show, and I think it was Arana. She found my book, and she was like, "Whose book is this?" She's like, all these poems and stuff. I was like, "Oh, they're not really poems, they're rants." Like I'm just getting some stuff off my chest. But I remember writing Broken Silences, and a couple of my brothers are on this live, so I know they probably could attest to this. I was coming home from college, and I locked myself in the bathroom, and I just was writing. I was like, I just needed some solace. I needed a place, and I just took it. And I was just writing and writing, and that piece eventually became Broken Silences. I think it's a lot of pain, it's a lot of joy, it's a lot of peace, it's a lot of things over the years. And I feel like poetry became my healing and my therapy before I even knew therapy. Like I just need to release these words, these feelings. I don't know what it is, what this is going to become, but I need to release it. And I think that just over time and just being encouraged and surrounded by poets. Like Michael Mater, you inspire me. Andrew, you inspired Boogie, Brandon, all of you on this stage, you inspire me. But all of the poets back home in Chicago, Caleb the poet, Malik Youssef, Emerald Green, like all of these people, and there's so many other people I probably could name, but like it was watching these people command the stage, watch these people take their pain and turn it into purpose. I was like, I want to do that. And there has been so much that brings me back to the stage now. We lost my nephew last year at 4 months. And that's like, whatever his purpose was in those 4 months he was here with us, I feel like God has given me the capacity and the gift to still be here and share words and share stories and and share just my unique perspective of the world. And in order to be light in the world, you have to experience darkness. So all of that darkness that has come over the years of coming out of, transitioning to a new city, to owning who I am as an artist, all of those things have been pieces of the puzzle to create who Maestro is as an artist today. So, I mean, yes, there is some sadness that brought us, but it's also some joy that brought me to this moment. And, I'm grateful for every piece of it, because I don't think any of it would have made me, if I didn't have all of it, I wouldn't have been the same person that I am. So when I go to a space and I get to share a lover's anthem or share Broken Silences, they're two very different pieces, but at the end of the day, they reach people in a specific way. And I'm grateful to be a part of that. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure being in a space with you. Same deal, same question. Okay, guys. So we've been on here for quite a while, and it was beautiful. We're going to have to do a part two so we can finish those poems. Stay on, don't log off. We're going to have a little discussion after the show, the credits run. But AJ, do you have any closing words? And do you want to share your story of why you became a poet and how poetry found you? Or was it with you always?
My story is bits and pieces of everyone's story. I was listening and connecting, and that's what has brought me to the calling. Mama was a soul train dancer. I always tell that story. When I was 5 years old, I'm sitting there listening to Parliament Funkadelic, uh, Al Green in the front row, and I'm hearing the sounds, hearing the words, and this little boy with the Kentucky Fried Chicken and tab soda is just immersed in everything. And uh, taught myself to read at 2 years old, skipped second and fourth grade. So I was just in love with the language. And then I was in love with rhythm and soul. Every time I turn on the TV, I'm watching Electric Company. I'm picking up a Dr. Seuss book. I'm hearing Easy Reader. Before Morgan Freeman was Morgan Freeman, he was Easy Reader in Electric Company, rhyming all the time, Fat Albert. So uh, I used to make menus for my mother. I used to cook like 9, 10 years old, and I would just write these greeting cards at 9 years old, 10 years old. And when I became a man, there was this girl who became close to me, but she was so impressed with Showtime at the Apollo. You hear what I'm saying, Boogeyman? Huh? So
Yeah.
she would be watching. She said, "Oh, this girl, Jessica Care Moore, she fire. She doing this piece called Black Girl Juice." I said, "What?" Yeah, she's the only one to win on Showtime at the Apollo. She won 3 weeks in a row. So I'm working as a security guard, graveyard shift at Grace Peck Terrace at this uh, apartment building with veterans and seniors. So I got nothing but time on my hands. I said, so Jessica Care Moore did this black girl juice. I'm gonna do a piece called barbecue sauce, beautiful black queen sauce, and I'm gonna bring it back to her. That's my first poem that I had written, that I had structured together, and I took it to her to see if I was impressive enough. And I said, yeah, what about this right here? This is, I wish I remembered that piece. Matry, I don't have that piece, man. I know you like, come to Up From Here, man, to do that piece, barbecue sauce. I did 8 pieces. I wrote 8, and each one was a course in an 8 course meal. And I just really loved the language. I love being able to homeschool my children. Got 4 sons and homeschooled them, and I said oral communication is one of the most powerful attributes and talents and skills that you can have. You might not have all the trades in pocket, but if you know how to speak, how to listen, how to read, and how to write, you good. You good anywhere. You understand? So as long as you understand and you gather the importance of that, and you incorporate, for me it was my love and obsession with rhythm. Everything I do and say has to do with being in the pocket, being on the one. My name is One. My children's name One. Their names Kadase, Kana, Kiros, Kumani. It's like a chant. I had to create poetry in the names of my children. So it was a calling. It was a calling. And this is day 97 of, I'm writing 366 poems, one poem per day from April 1st until March 30th of next year. This is day 97. And it's all good. This is what it is. And since I'm going to live my life through this gift and this skill that God gave me, then I know we're going to be good. It's been a pleasure with everybody. Maitri, this is it. Consider this the divinity that brings us on stage together to do the things we got to do. It ain't no more excuses over here. I ain't got nothing to say to you now other than here we go.
All I got
Saint
is
Dill
all
is
I got
back.
is you can't run from me, man.
Yes. So
Yeah, it ain't happening.
we're gonna let her tell us why she chose poetry or poetry chose her. Saint Dill, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I am here. Sorry, y'all. Hold on. Y'all can't see me, huh? There we go. Here I am. My dog is in here too because he woke up, so